Well, everyone, patch 9.2. More things have came out, and you know what, actually? We do have to be reasonable and fair. They're good. There's good things there.
The majority
I'm sure there's one or two rumbly things, and we're going to... I mean, I've already melted my brain in the new lore, and I have a video coming out on Tuesday or Wednesday whenever Nikki gets back from holiday, which, should be fun. Should be fun.
Yes, absolutely.
On the game design side, they are making some good moves. I actually think it's this thing. Do you know what I think? Yeah, right. 9.2 mechanically... Because like everybody being like cipher of the first ones. Oh, I'm getting words. It's like that's a sort of reductive way. You know, that's
also, it's also funny.
It is funny.
Yeah.
No, I agree. It's funny, but that's just whatever the theming of the system is, and we'll have to see if the system is good. And certainly, there's things that suggest better than the past, at least.
Yeah.
It seems like this thing where this is a patch, it's going to actually be, I'm not going to say top marks on all categories, but I think it's going to be a patch that's going to be way better than Shadowlands. Hell, it could even be better than a bunch of BFA content and stuff like that. Who the hell knows? It actually could be. But what will have happened is that the deal will have been sealed. The nail will be in the coffin because of basically the first 30 to 40 seconds of our man Steve talking about how it's really the true culmination of the book that started with Warcraft 3. I actually, because I remember it's in my reaction, like whenever we did it, my first thing was like, what? Zeepla. It was in hers, and I think she's actually a pretty good person to sort of drop in on these things, because lapsed WoW players who are off playing another game, I mean, if we want a situation where WoW, kind of goes in the uptick, we're going to have to get the Zeeplas back and the Preaches back.
Yes, of
course. That's what Blizzard's job should be. It shouldn't just be mega sort of fan service for the people who are kind of sticking with it for now. That they definitely need to work out how to keep everybody who's currently here very happy, and then make the game actually appeal to more people. So I think it's that weird thing, right? I think it's probably going to be positive progression on almost every front, but the setting is more Destiny than Warcraft, and the whole fucking Eternity's End and Walker, it's the end of the big chapter, is just a load of wank.
Yeah.
I feel like Blizzard have no idea how much damage they did when they tried to piggyback off Warcraft 3 to make Shadowlands look cool.
Yeah, on that specifically,
mistake.
Yeah, on that specifically, there is definitely something that we'll address later on. I see people in chat talking about it already, which is
the old
is Blizzard Entertainment just plagiarizing FF14? The answer is obviously not a yes or a no. The answer is somewhere decidedly in the middle. So
fucking yo.
Yeah, we'll talk about that once we get through 9.2 stuff a little bit, because that's kind of the. We'll go through 9.2. We'll be very, we'll give Liz the benefit of the doubt in any capacity, and then we'll just go to town on anything else that needs talked about.
You know what? I'm going to go to light mode because I think it works a bit better with compression.
Yeah, and I think before we actually get any further, I do want to say that there is a massive failure of Blizzard Entertainment in terms of handling PR. That this is stuff that we're talking about here that is collected all across. That the fact that Dakar has to go and find all of these little things, obviously a lot of it's data mining, which they're not going to just sort of upright tell you. But when it comes to the system stuff from this interview, this really should have been like just out the gate. They maybe should have had this interview before, almost before, or like immediately paid attention to right after the video.
Totally.
But
yeah, no,
we'll
absolutely. So yeah, I mean, hey, it's big thanks to Dakor for doing all of this work for all of us. I mean, literally, if this is where you're getting the news, then a guy has collated it all for you and got it here, which was a little bit of doing Blizzard's job. Like, there's always going to be fan site roundups and stuff, but they sure do spread it around, and that's a pity because a lot of the information in a whole bunch of these interviews is actually really good.
Yeah,
and of course, the reason I had to turn night mode off is because we are talking about Morgan Day. And that was a really lame joke. I'm going to swiftly move on and talk about Zereth Mortis and the cipher of the first ones. Okay, so let's do that. Right. So this is what we've learned about the new zone and the new zone-wide system cipher of the first ones from Morgan Day. Shortly after arriving in Zereth Mortis, you'll get a customizable Atoma called Pokapok, who is going to be a translator tour guide ally throughout your journey here, your Rosetta Stone for the cipher language. So I guess it's like your, portable pocket magni. that maybe, hopefully, you can dress up or, do some fun things with.
Oh, of course.
The Cypher of the First Ones is a very big system. Yes, it drives the majority of outdoor content in Zereth Mortis, and it will be available in week 1. So far, all makes sense. I mean, hopefully it would be pretty rough if it was already available in week 4. But yes, right, the major goal of the system is to incentivize exploration and discovery. Now, in my head, I'm like, exploring, I like this. Discovering, I like this. Korthia, I don't like this. Will they do it right? But it drives the majority of outdoor content in Zereth Mortis. Raiders, however, is the pretty cool thing actually, can completely ignore the system as there is no player power attached to it. Now, we're going to talk about the very man who put this document together for us, Mr. Dakor. Cutting edge mythic raider who has slain Sylvanas, amongst many others.
More times than he would care to admit.
Poor bastard. Well, I mean, I say poor bastard because, the reason why he's I think multiple times over gold capped is he utterly no-lifed, as a part of being a mythic raider, the whole archivist codex system. And he felt like he had to do that for player power. The equivalent in this patch would not make him do that. So for Dakor, this is going to make WoW better. It means that when he's engaging in this, it's because he wants to. And that'll mean that he won't be dragging mental baggage. It won't feel like a chore because, Daddy Blizzard is not saying, do this and you'll get your chocolate bar at the end, with the chocolate bar being a socket. And, by the way, chocolate bar is a better reward than a socket. So, that's a bit of a weird analogy, but whatever. I guess, hey, food analogies is what we do. So,
Yeah, I get you.
What this does mean, right? Archivist Codex sort of sucking a wee bit. It had cool ideas and all of that. It's just, I think it was a pretty frustrating experience early on, and then by the time that they really boosted it up, I didn't give a shit anymore. I was playing FF. So even if the Cypher of the First Ones is absolute dog dick, just sucks. Well, if the raid is good, then Cypher of the First Ones isn't going to drag down your raiding experience. And surely that's one of the things people liked about Warlords of Draenor. It was like, all right, well, do I care about all these other things in the game? No. Do I just want to raid? Yes. Oh, I can just raid. The raiding's really fun. I'm happy.
Exactly.
So I think that, in principle, I just like how, in a way, risk-controlled this is. It means that, the issue with the previous build-around systems is they really felt like they needed to build loads of player power into the build-around systems because, that's the only way a WoW player will do them. I would then, of course, say that the problem is that they've narrowed the definition of a WoW player into a numbery spreadsheet person. Which, is actually, by the way, I fucking love a good spreadsheet. So, note this. But I think a lot of the people who like spreadsheets also don't like the player power, being cajoled into doing things they don't really want to do. So, even though this is shit, it's well risk managed, so it's not going to drag everything else down. So, that's a weird way to do a compliment, but, it is a thumb up. In principle, that's really good to hear.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it sort of, I guess, it implies to me that they are getting rid of some of that stubbornness. Because I believe, a lot of the reason they did this in the past was just, we don't trust players to do it, and we need to give them a reason to do it. And now they're kind of, if they are mentally pairing, or I guess unpairing from the idea that they need to have this, all this player power tied to everything, it seems like a paradigm shift that's bigger than... obviously it could just be them going, no, okay, we understand we have to fix this individual little problem. We'll fix it, fuck it, whatever. But there is a chance that this is a paradigm shift in terms of okay, hang on. So if we don't tie this to player power, then why are people going to do it? Oh, we have to make it fun, or they won't do it. Which kind of gives them the incentive to actually make it fun as opposed to make it last longer in terms of the actual incentives the entire way down the chain, I think. So
yeah, no, it's way better, way better. I mean, another example of this is falls with outside of raiding, Horrific Visions.
Yeah,
I will still say I think Horrific Visions is one of the coolest, most fun things they've done in ages. I thought they were great. I loved them.
Certainly had some issues when you get to the higher end of completion or stuff like that. But when it comes from the more kind of just everyone's average engagement with it, it was pretty good, except for.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Yep.
The reason why I didn't engage in that system as much as I would have wanted to is because they asked me to do a whole bunch. They tied it into the daily quests, and of course it was the feedback about that meant that because imagine if you had to grind currency to enter Torghast.
Oh, I wouldn't.
Because that was their original plan, remember?
They're insane.
So, they learned their lesson there from the horrific visions. But I was very sad because I love the horrific visions, but doing all of the dailies in order to get the stuff to go into the visions, for me, it was like it really sapped the fun out of it. And it meant that when I was actually in a vision, I felt quite incentivized to play rather conservatively.
Yeah, you're stressed.
I was like, I'd say unduly stressed, because for me, it was just way more fun. I was like, this is a cool gameplay experience. I just want to do it and do it and do it.
Yeah.
Where, you didn't really get that feeling. So I think this is like really good thinking that we're seeing from Blizz, and makes me quite happy to hear.
Yep.
To move on then, they have the zone's talent tree that's comparable to the box of many things in Torghast. Basically, you can unlock or make your way through the unlocks in whatever order you want, but eventually you will have the whole thing, which you can kind of understand why they do that for like design reasons. Bit less interesting in one way. It means it's less of a talent tree and it's more of a just choose your own progression path, but you'll all get to the same place at the end.
Yeah, well, I think...
Which is fine if it works.
Well, I think the one thing they need to learn from their failed Covenant experiment is that people don't want to have split access to different stuff.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be, in their words, meaningful choice. It's the idea of, well, if you're going to put content in the game, you don't have enough content anyway, so you might as well make it available to everyone, as opposed to having choice, because then you have to, even in terms of designing that, you have to then design what access has what. And then if you think about it as currency grinds and stuff like that for different things, you're pushing forward the cipher faster. How do you min-max your currency gain? Oh, well, you'll want access, even if it's 5% better, you'll want access to this part of Zereth Mortis as opposed to the other part. And then you've got all these design and balance things that completely shit all over the intended experience, instead of them just going, well, yeah, do whatever you want.
Yeah, pretty much. So, I think that's good. And it will be interesting to see how they pump up a zone being fun. One of the things I really remember was Tanan Jungle, actually. Tanan Jungle had this lava, and you could stand in the lava, and as you stood in the lava, you would get, it was like 10% increased damage taken, but also damage done. And it would stack like loads. So you could have, you take 90% more damage, you deal more. Basically, it got crazy if you stood in it for long enough. And it actually meant that, like, you could go and do some crazy, crazy, crazy pulls and things doing your dailies into Tanan. And that was just, like, a nice little way that they made the zone gameplay feel quite a bit more engaging. Yeah. It was a little mechanic in the zone that worked well, oddly enough, with a fill the bar quest. Because it meant that you could do a high-risk maneuver to fill the bar mega quick in, like, 1 or 2 pulls. So I thought it was a neat thing. So if they're doing more things like that through the box of many things, I think there's potential there. It allows them to experiment in the zone content. So hopefully it's not boring stuff. Hopefully it's a bit more out there, a bit more fun. So that's certainly good. Now then, Cypher content awards a currency that is used to progress the talent tree. No weekly caps. Now, the thing there is there's no player power. So you just do as much as you want. There's no player power. You don't feel like you need to.
Yeah.
So again, I'm really happy to hear that. This is a very positive thing to hear from Blizzard. That's great.
Yeah. I guess one concern I wouldn't even say this is a concern. It's more a thought, because concern frames it as negative no matter what way it goes. But depends on what the reward is, I guess, because it's a case of no weekly cap implies that they're happy to just have people go completely mental for stuff like that. So I guess I was about to say it seems like it's intrinsic content, but they will stick a reward at the end of it. So I hope. I guess a lot of this boils down to, I hope the content in Zereth Mortis will be fun to do. And I think that's the thing, which, as we are about to get onto, I think generally a little bit hopeful.
Yeah, well, gee, Matt, I wonder. The next line in this is, one of their goals is to add difficulty to outdoor content. And they felt that a talent tree would be a good way for players to gradually explore and defeat harder and harder outdoor content. The Cypher will unlock zone-wide buffs, interactable items, and much more.
Yeah, and to be fair to them, I actually think that the box of many things was designed the same way, and I think that it actually worked out fairly well. It's a shame that it was tied to Torghast, and Torghast had so much performance metric that you wanted to get to, so it was like, well, sorry, this is designed so you can't 5-gem it until you get to this point in the box. So if you're not at that point in the box, which is weekly capped, then, well, not weekly capped, seasonally capped, I guess, then fuck you. But if it's not particularly... if that performance metric and it's not tied to Torghast, if it is just, hey, you'll have a much better chance of succeeding over here with these talents, or with these, not talents, but these entries and that, then I think that's like, this is all stuff that just feels like, oh, okay, yeah. You're making the game in the way that the ideal version of World of Warcraft works, at least in these small ways, at least so far.
Yeah.
So we're definitely, a lot of it comes down to the quality of implementation, but at least the philosophy of implementation is looking better.
Yeah, the principles are getting better, everyone. Yeah, of course, it still needs to be fun. We'll have to see how that goes. But hey, the principles are getting better, and honestly, the principles have been a problem for a long-ass time. And I think the principles need to be fixed up and made better before a lot of the content can really follow and be fun.
Yeah.
Because the content's got to be made with those principles in mind. Now, there's other good things. So new Cypher quests will become available as you progress through the storyline, and these are going to be account-wide unlocks from day one.
Good.
Now, this is not, coming in and saying, oh, wow, it's the best feature ever, patch saved. This is a clear thing you should have done in the past. We're glad you're doing it now. That means the feedback's been taken on.
Yeah, I mean,
So, happy.
what's the statement? Something like a long journey is, the step of 1,000 journeys, or what is it? A journey of 1,000 steps begins with one step. And I think so much of all of this is like, hey, here's one step. Here's one step forward that we're happy enough with. And I think that, track this forward. If they do something like this, every patch, every small patch, and a lot more of the steps every expansion, then there is a path forward for this stuff to feel a lot more user-friendly and a lot more designed for user actual experience.
Speaking of which, they are also looking into further ways to speed up progression for alts as time goes on, like increased Cypher currency gains. So that's good. I remember back in Mists of Pandaria, you get the rep boost when you max out a rep in your main, right? So the more stuff like this, the better, right? Principles, moving in the right direction. Catch-up gear then. Let's talk about that.
Before you talk about catch-up, I just want to say, because this is an interesting thing, the further way to speed up content progression for alts as time goes on, that reminds me of, I guess, one of the things about FF14 in terms of the relic grinds that they add every expansion is that every major patch or every couple major patches will speed that up. They'll literally just change drop rates to be higher. So as an example, I am on I can't remember the step after you get Law's Order in the Shadowbringer relic, and it was go get these what are they, Hexatious and Laughing, I think, memories, or Vexatious and Laughing memories from either Fates or the Alliance raids, and the Fate drop chance is still pretty low, but it's massively increased from before, and very few people I see talk about how that devalues their progress because the patches are so far apart.
Interesting.
That it literally does, because I've been talking to Tom. He's got a bunch of relics, like 5 Shadowbringers relics, and he doesn't have any negativity in his voice when he's saying, oh yeah, they're much easier. It's much easier to finish that step now. It's a lot faster. And it's like, oh, well, in this world, I could see people say, well, you're devaluing my progress by making it faster later on. Even for alts, you're making my time feel wasted. But there's a world where the implementation's right enough, and having the reward from it early, if it's a strong enough reward and a visible enough one, that people will go, oh no, that's okay actually. It doesn't matter if it's devalued because I have it going forward, and I have it from when I have it, which makes it a little bit better. Having as an example the relic weapon when it's available at the time, is everyone goes, oh fuck yeah, you have a lot of time in your hands, or good job grinding that. That's actually hard work. So I guess just to kind of is an interesting thought looking at that and saying, it's like, oh, there's the very obvious criticism of that, but then there's an example where that criticism doesn't actually hold as far as the player experience goes.
To be honest, I don't know much about. I don't know enough about the relic weapons to really comment that much.
Yeah,
silly if I did. So for catch-up gear then, right? It's eye level range of 229 to 249. Treasures and rares will be there. So it is basically safe to assume that normal in the new patch is 252 and 259, heroic 256, 272, and mythic 278, 285. So definitely more like sort of lower end, speedy catch-up gear. We'll have to see if there's any, upgrades or any. I suppose no, there isn't. Not as much as because the gear from Korthia you could zoop up quite a bit in terms of item level. It would just take ages.
Yeah.
Less so now, of course, with 915. But anyway, also, it's going to have set bonuses, like increased mobility outside of instances. Now, the idea of having a whole bunch of, world-focused set bonuses, I think that's quite cool. So the more of that stuff, the merrier, right? Hopefully they can start experimenting and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, especially, I don't know if that's a literal quote, but the, increased mobility outside of instances, That's the stuff you want to start pumping out. You want to start going, all right, so you can just run really fast.
Yeah.
You know, even stuff like it would be crazy, but you don't need to mount because you just like, you know the jetpacks and stuff from the first of Mechagon.
Yeah.
Then the wings of whatever the fairy dust was in Ardenweald.
Yeah.
Something like that on a 6-piece set bonus that you earn after time, and now you just are double jumping and going at full speed. That would be stuff that like, does it kind of break the game? A little bit, but no, in a way that mounts don't, or the way that mounts do anyway. So that's the kind of thing they could be looking at there. And
Yeah.
especially if this stuff works outside of Zereth Mortis in the past. Because,
Yeah.
well, there's problems with that, of course, but, you know.
Well, I mean, look, you give people a way to like make their own speed set or something, they'll go and do it.
Yep, exactly.
Because that's the sort of thing people are interested in.
Yep.
So right, moving on then, there are no new plans for Gold Sync mounts, but Mount Pet achievement people will be able to progress through the new Synthesis Forge system, which kind of seems to be pretty cool, actually, where basically you collect Atoma and construct pieces, and you then can combine all of these things to create loads of like new mounts and pets.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So we'll have to see how it works, and we have a little section on it later on.